Well, welcome to part 11 of our remake of the KidsCanCode shoot 'em up. We're pretty much on the final parts now. We've got this one which is copying part 14 of the original series, where we have a menu screen, and then with one more to go where we have a leaderboard. So we're going to do that in Lua Love2D today. So I'll just show you what it looks like now. You'll notice I've got rid of the black terminal behind this now. It's by changing the conf file here to tconsole equals false, so that's now gone. And instead of it all kicking off, we've now got this menu with the shoot 'em up description, tells you arrow keys to move, enter to begin, escape to quit at any time, and B to toggle the background music. So it gives you plenty of time to get used to it. If I press B, the background music starts. If I press X, which is not shown on here, it goes into debug mode automatically. I press it again and it undoes that, and of course enter to begin. The game now is pretty much working as it was before, so the only difference is that if I now die 3 times, which I don't think I'll bother to do, it'll return us back to the menu screen, and then we can go again. Just quit that. So there's been a lot of rewriting, a lot of refactoring, so I'll go through each one in turn. We'll do them in alphabetical order. So we'll start with the bullet. So I wanted to try and make sure that the Love2D matched the Pygame and Monogame as close as I can, so I have made some minor adjustments in all of them to try and get them to match. So with the bullet class here, one small change I've made is to have this align parameter which is sent in, so that we're sending the player itself the sprite for the bullet and this align one. So the way that works is that align is normally central. So if you don't supply it with Lua, it doesn't actually matter, it just ignores it. So it will check whether the alignment is set to left or right, and if it isn't, then it'll just put it in the center, which is this kind of default one that's been put here. So that will allow you to fire a bullet in the center, to the left or to the right, and it's very similar now in the Pygame. To show you how that works, it's in the shoot function. So if we now get a power up, we can insert into, if we've got a power up of greater than 1, we can insert 2 bullets, one on the left, one on the right, and that will take care of it directly in the bullet class. So we've also got a reduced speed for debug mode, so that they run a bit slower. The other major changes I've made is that we have now got rid of there were a couple of functions here which could supply the rectangle or circle in a more conventional sort of like a function to return that value, whereas now I've got rid of them, so we are actually referring directly, when we call the bullet, to its internal variables. So for example, we can get the bullet rectangle or the bullet circle without calling a function. I'll just show you what I mean by that. So in main, if we go to the check mob bullet collisions, we've got here destroy equals the bullet list dot circle intersects with the mob list dot circle. So we're no longer using dot get circle, or sorry, colon get circle open close brackets. So this is treating the circle as a direct property, so it can be read and write from directly from each of these classes. Now this is not considered to be a good thing to do in a class, so that you just directly read and write to the internal variables. But with Python's refusal to work nicely with static classes, I've had to alter all 3 of my missions to try and get them to match. So with the Pygame one, I've now used the decorators to give us getters and setters, but Lua doesn't have that kind of luxury, so we could continue just to use like get circle and return a circle, but to try and make everything look the same, I'm just using these direct referrals to the rectangles, circles, and of course we could theoretically get any of the variables that are inside this class. So as I say, it's not considered to be good practice, but it works and it makes everything look the same. So I'm kind of allowing myself that deviation from what we're supposed to be doing with classes, and keeping everything private and only allowing specific access to the internal variables. But this is Lua, and so we're doing it that way. So that's the change that I've made here. I've tidied it up a little bit here. The update is much the same, and so is the draw. Again, maybe a little bit of tidying up, but no major code changes there. So that's the bullet dealt with. An explosion. Again, not much changes there. Just again a little bit of tidying up to try and put the order of the different variables sort of in the same way in here as in the Pygame one. Again, we've got although we're using a rectangle, we're not providing a getter and setter for that rectangle, we're just referring to it directly in, if I just show you for example there in the update explosions, I believe it was. Actually no, with this one they didn't have any, that's right. No, the explosions we weren't using colliders anyway, so there's no real change there. So that's pretty much the same as it was. So we can shut that one off. Now the menu I'll come back to in a minute, because that's the new one that we've added today. So the mob again has been changed slightly, in that we have also got rid of the get rect and get circle functions. So we're again just calling the circle and rectangle directly. So if we get to the new, so we've got a self.rect and a self.circle, and we're just referring to those directly when checking the collisions, as we are in, here we are, mob player collisions. We're looking player.circle intersects with the mob.circle. So we're doing exactly the same there as we did with the player and the bullets, or we haven't shown you the player yet, but I've done it the same in the player. So we're just using a direct circle, using it as a public variable. That's the downside of using Lua and or Python. The concept of private and public just doesn't exist, which is a real shame. So okay, let's go back on to mob. So the other things are pretty much the same, everything's set up as it was before. The rotate and the draw. I've added a lot more comments in most of these classes now, just to explain what's going on, why things are being done the way they are, so that should help. Let's just show you the player again. That's still a static class, so we've got this set properties here which kind of gets it going. I've changed it a little bit. I've put in a player.reset, which resets these variables for the simple reason that when we are now killed off, instead of that's the end of the game, we have another chance, so we go back to the menu. So this reset allows that to be everything put back to normal. So that's done, I believe, in main. Yeah, I'll come back to that shortly. So the player can be reset and we continue as we were before. Update, I've tidied that up a little bit now. I've put all the power-ups and whether the player's hiding, put it all into neater little functions, and added down here a new one called power down, which changes the power back to 1 and the power time to 0 when the 5 seconds has passed and we want to end the power up. So it seemed logical to call it power down. And then again this reset is used here. So I'm passing it the number of lives the player currently has, so that when it comes out of hiding we don't put the number of lives back to 3, we put it back to what it was originally. So that's the player just about sorted, I think. Yeah, everything else is pretty much the same. Okay, let's shut that one. Power up again, just some minor tidying up. Now this of course is a full class, so we've got that again. The circle and rectangle are no longer having their own functions to return them. You just pull them straight out of the object, so we can get to the center, we can get to the key, we can get to circle, rectangle straight away for doing the power-ups, as in check power-up player collisions. So we're doing player circle intersecting with the power-ups circle rather than get circle, or you can do it with the rectangle up here. That's the power-ups, pretty much the same otherwise. Let's shut that one. Shared has just got a couple of new bits. In fact, we don't need this input text for this one. I'll delete that. It's this s.play music which I've set up, and that allows us to control whether the music is being played from the menu, which, as I say, I'll come back to in just a second. So we'll save that. So just one new extra bit, which is s.play music. Save that and close it. Shield, again, not much changed there because this was relatively simple anyway. So we're drawing our 3 bars, so the bar length and height is set up here. So we've got an outline rectangle and a fill rectangle. Now the reason I haven't got 3, which I have in the pie game now, is that we're reusing the fill rectangle, sorry, the outline rectangle here, so that it's initially filled with the shield length and bar height. So we're only using the kind of the X and Y coordinates from it, and so we've managed to get away with just using 2 rectangles here. So the first one fills in the background colour, then it puts on the green colour of however much shield is left, and then finally draws an outline round it. So again, very similar now to the pie game version. So that's shield. Right, let's come back to the menu. Now you'll see here it's very, very simple. The update function has nothing in it, and the draw just draws the text that you saw which I'll just play to you again. So this text, the first line here draws the game title, which is passed in as a parameter at size 64 in that position there in shared.yellow. The next one draws arrow keys, move, space to fire here in white, and the position's all set, and so on. It goes down here. So as you can see, shared green is for this press B to toggle the background music. So all that does here is draw what you see there. So in the Pygame one, we were using the menu's update function here in order to find out what keys are being pressed. Now this is where we're quite fortunate. If I shut that off, in Love2D it has a very useful function called the love.keyPressed. So this is a callback function within Love2D itself. So what happens whenever you press a key, this callback function just runs. So it's actually easier and more efficient to use this callback, and every time a key is pressed, the first thing to do is check the game state, which I'll come back to in a moment. And if we're on the menu play state, then we're checking whether the key pressed is return or enter, B for background music, or X for debug. So this is works really well. So we don't need to use the update function here where we would normally try and update the menu. I've left it in just in case we wanted to perhaps draw some graphics or do something fancy with it at some stage. Then the update function is still there. It's just at the moment it's not being used, so we're getting the keyboard for that straight away, which really leads on nicely to the idea of the game state. So right from the very start in shared, if I just increase the font there, we had these game states. The initial one had menu, play and quit. I've just added the leaderboard in for the time being. We don't need it today, but we will be using it on the final episode next time. So that we've got these 4 possible game states. We're either in the menu, playing, or leaderboard next time, or quit. So we're only using menu, play and quit today. So that's where this game state comes in. When we load in the game, first of all, which is in love.load, down here the shared game state is set now to shared game states menu. On the last one it was set to shared game states play. So this is now going direct to the menu, and the way this works is that every time the update and draw functions work, you use the game state to check to see what you're doing. So if the game state is set at menu initially, 50 times or 60 times a second the update runs. It says if the shared game state is menu, then nothing to do. Whereas if the game state is play, then it will check the keyboard to see if we're shooting, check the mob collisions, all the usual stuff that it does. And that's it. Now when the leaderboard's done, we'll be able to have else if shared game state equals shared game states leaderboard, and then we'll have another set of code to work on the leaderboard. So you can restrict the code that runs in the update and draw functions depending on the game state that you're currently in. Same with the draw down here. If the game state is menu, which it currently is, then all we do is draw the menu. That's it. If it's not menu, if we're in the play, then we do all the other stuff. We draw the player, we draw all the power-ups, the explosions and so on. And of course if we were in the up and coming leaderboard game state, then we'd have some separate bits of code to run here. So I've also used it, as I showed you just briefly, with the love.keyPressed. Again, I was just checking, are we in the menu game state? If we are, then we can do this. Now of course what this does mean is that we could also, within this love.keyPressed, check if the game state is in the play state and actually get the keys that we're pressing from that, which is certainly an alternative way of doing it, but I'd rather leave that to the actual class, so that the player class is dealing with those keystrokes, rather than here, which is kind of outside of the class. But it works perfectly when we're just looking for one or two keys, but when you're constantly moving them to move the character around, I think it works better to actually do that in the class. But you've got those two options, so you can use the love.key pressed and get which key has been pressed if you wish. So that's that one done. I think that's about it now. So yeah, so we're running the game states, and that changes, if I can just show you, in the mob player collisions. So what happens now when we are no longer alive, all our shields have been used up, if the death explosion has finished playing, and if the die play sound is finished playing, then what it does is to set the game state back to the menu game state, and if the audio is playing, it stops it automatically at that point. So we're sent back to the menu game state when the game finishes. So that's how that works with game states and this menu. So I'll just let run and die as quickly as I can, just so you can see how that works. So as before, we can set debug on or off, music on or off, enter to go, and I'll just keep dying as quickly as I can, which is much easier when there's no music. Okay, one more to go. Nearly there. Okay, that's it, and we're back to the menu. So if I now press enter again, the lives have been reset, the score's been reset, and everything's ready to go. So that resetting was done in the key pressed event. I'll just show you that. Yeah, so if we're in the menu state and we press the enter key, then the game state is set to play, and then we're resetting the player with 3 lives, and then the score is set back to 0. So that's how that all comes about.